and welcome to the Mountain Mystic Podcast. I'm your host, Katie Hemphill, welcoming you here today. To all you listeners, whether you're brand new to the show, whether you've been hanging out with me for a while, I am so happy to have you here as you join me today to get focused on this big theme of ours this winter season. Winter being this powerful time where, we've got less light outside, the air is a lot denser, colder, which for me is far less inviting than it is other times of the year. But just because we aren't guided to be outside maybe as often as we would like, there's still this powerful, powerful invitation this time of year to go on a journey, a different sort of journey. This is a journey inward, a journey into self, a journey inward into all aspects of self, those that are deep within you, those that exist within you that maybe you've been feeling like you really need to get to know better, maybe those that you aren't even aware of at all. So the meditation space, right? This meditative kind of inward journey space, going inward into self. This is what we are going to talk about today. And to do so, what we're going to do is call upon this word that is stillness. So as we enter our internal realms, right, explore those worlds within, just like when we're outside, when we're turning inward, there are so many different ways that we can explore. And one way we can do this, what we may call a far more traditional way of doing things, is to really call upon this theme that is inner stillness, a quieting of the mind, a quieting of movement, a quieting of all the noise that's always just so alive in our normal waking consciousness, especially in this modern world, in these busy lives that we live, right? Motion, noise, this is what really makes up our existence, isn't it? This always be moving, always be working, always be doing. How much sound, right? How much stimulation is always alive, whether it's the TV, our phones, driving our cars, the noise outside our doors, the noise outside in the streets, in the hallways, right? It's just that we live in such a noisy world, and there's that noise that lives outside of us that impacts our internal world, and there's also that noise that lives within, that constant mental chatter. When was the last time you paused? When was the last time you paused to simply notice all the mental chatter that's going on in your head? So when was the last time that you paused? Maybe took a few breaths down into your body, found yourself grounded, centered. It took a moment to just witness your thoughts as they move in and move out. Like, how noisy are those thoughts? Is there any sort of pause, any break in those thoughts that come in and out? Or is it just a river that is constantly moving, constantly flowing in a way that just takes up so much space in your consciousness? So I remember when I first found my way into meditation, and I believe it was primarily through the book, The Untethered Soul, which I've actually recently picked up again. I'm going back through all the old books that I read as part of my writing of the book I've been working on. And so I went back to The Untethered Soul, and I'm reading through, the first words that really helped me wake up to this understanding that I am not my thoughts, and that I, as the conscious being that I am, have the ability to separate myself from my thoughts and to be witness. Separate myself from my thoughts and be witness to them flowing in and flowing right back out. And I don't have to be attached to them. I don't have to be consumed by what they're telling me. These thoughts are flickers of energy, flickers of information that flow in and flow out. And most of the time, they're offline, detached from my conscious connection, and they're just kind of doing their own thing. Now, if I want to be more skillful, I can harness the power of my thoughts to, focus towards what I really want to be thinking on. But that's different than the relationship that we have with our thoughts that take up so much of our time and energy as we're moving through life. So that's just one example, a main example. For most people, a first example that really helps when we start to move into this space that is inner stillness. Because if we're reaching towards a state of inner stillness, inner quiet, that cessation of movement within, if we're reaching towards this, then it's our thoughts that, for most of us, are a really good starting place to become aware of. So just speaking to that right up front, maybe we'll dive in more into that today, or maybe you'll have to wait to dive into it in our full winter program, our Stillness Speaks event. If you haven't checked that out yet, this is a nod to go do so. Link will, of course, be in the notes and should be all over at this place. Our winter stillness event. This is a program going on all winter long, and one that you'll have lifetime access to. I actually, I'm trying this thing this year where each season, I'm going to focus us on a theme. So winter, it being a time that really lends itself towards stillness within, this journey within, a time for deepening within. And it's in this time that you get to join me, and I have a whole structured program for you in there for me as your guide to really help give you a clear practice to help cultivate this state. Also knowing that, me being me and the way that I teach, this program also includes what we shall call a playground of experience. If you know me, you know that I'm not the sort of meditation teacher that is really focused on what we may call a masculine practice, something really structured, linear. That's not the way I usually roll. That being said, when it comes to inner stillness and really deepening in, this is what is so helpful. If you find yourself as someone who is at a place where you can call upon this practice and you actually hold yourself to it, I promise you that there is so much waiting for you if you are wanting and willing to join me in that structured stillness practice. But again, that's only one half of this program. The other half being this playground of experience what we may speak to as more the feminine side of the embodiment work I do. And the way that I'm doing this is, as these weeks unfold, I am letting myself be inspired by what to create as it relates to guided meditation practices. I am looking forward to being in community with more of you all so that we can get co-creative, so that I can listen to what you are needing and wanting and create from that space. So one more time, an invitation to join me in Stillness Speaks, this winter meditation program. In there, you will find a structured stillness practice guiding you into cultivating your own stillness meditation practice. And you will also find a playground of meditation experience to help support your journey, add a little bit more juice to the experience. Okay, so getting back to this episode, I know we dove right in. Sometimes I come into this sort of recording with like, okay, I have this structure, I'm going to go off of it, and then I sit down and I hit record and I kind of just go for it. And if it's good, I let that happen. And that's what happened today. So we really just dove into stillness, right? Inner stillness, that state of inner quiet, and how it's a state that's so different than what most of us modern human beings are used to. We live in a chaotic, noisy world, and that exists outside of ourselves and that exists within ourselves. And what that does is really a disservice to our ability to stay grounded, to get clear on what really matters. What matters to each of us, what matters to the greater world we are part of, what matters in this moment, what matters in a greater trajectory, right? This phrase that I use a lot as the Sagittarius that I am, I tune into this phrase and it seems like such a Sagittarian phrase, this what matters. Right? We live in this noisy, chaotic world, and in a lot of ways, we're kind of just tied up in it, right? Like, I envision, some like seaweed that's caught up in all the currents of the ocean, and it's just at the mercy of all the different currents, right? Getting tossed around and but we aren't seaweed. We're human beings, and we have all these powers to take control of self, to take control of our path, to show up for our own selves, for our families, for our communities, for the whole of planet Earth, this great web of life that we are all part of. And if we're going to do this, we have to have a practice of knowing what matters. What matters now? Not what mattered 5 minutes ago or a year ago, but what matters here and now, right? This ties into this word discernment. Are you able to discern your way through all the paths of life? So discernment really kind of being this action-oriented piece, your ability to know what matters and to take action on it. But that can only happen again in this other piece if we have this inner quiet, this inner stillness to be able to be present to what is here. Now, I'm bringing a lot of words to you right now, right? There's a lot of ideas. So if your mind's getting a little bit jumbled here, like, Katie, you're throwing a whole lot of stuff at me. Like, I hear you. I get it. If you want to go back and listen to that again and again to try to kind of pick more out of it, you're totally free to do that. for now, just inviting you to let ping you what is here in this moment to light up for you. If you want to take notes and get it all, that's cool. But I'm not asking that you do that. And in the way that I do things, I am going to take us on a bit of a side trail here, because what's really coming through at this point is this, shall we call it this Gemini energy? I'm recording this on December 14th, and we're moving into the Gemini Full Moon. And this Gemini, right, this very mind, right, this mental, this high level power of the mind is really lit up right now. So, I'm reflecting on this as I'm wow, I'm throwing a lot of words at you guys, kind of getting technical here. And I don't do that as often as I used to back into my science-y days. But here on the Gemini full moon, the mind is really lit up. So again, calling upon this discernment piece, this high level ability of your mind to make decisions. Now, a decision is more than just mental activity, right? Your ability to discern. Yes, this is a quality of the mind, but again, going back to your mind in action. So the ability of your mind to come on board, know what is true, what is right to the highest ability that it can. And from this space to take action moving forward. Discernment on your path forward. And again, this Gemini energy and taking a moment to step out of the mind, more of our deeper embodiment sort of practice here. What you can do is just feel into the energy of Gemini. If you're listening to this close to when I post it, that full moon energy should still be pretty active. But at any moment, this is what I believe. We can buy into astrology as this kind of causal arrow, this powerful force that, there is something to the full moon being in Gemini, and there's that physical force, that physical energy that you can tap into. And whether or not you believe that, for what that's worth, you can play with that. I think there's also a different way that we can play with astrology and the zodiac, is knowing that this energy is always alive, right? This power of your mind, this Gemini energy. And no, as I speak the words the power of the mind, right? The way I'm speaking to Gemini in this podcast is just one sliver of what Gemini is, but this is what's lit up for me right now. So that's what I'm bringing through to you. So how to work with the zodiac, with astrology? When we're in a Gemini full moon, maybe there's something to the fact that it's easier to tap into this Gemini energy. And also, maybe at any moment in your life, you can tap into this idea that is Gemini, right? It lives in the conscious collective. It's here, and you can tap into it. You can also go read about it. You can tune to it in whatever way you want. But I'm bringing in Gemini today, right? The power of mind, into a podcast focused on stillness. Again, one, because it's loud for me as I'm here recording this at the full moon. But there's also this piece about, the power and the shadow of the human mind. Our minds, especially, again, I've said this already a few times in this episode. I'll probably say it a few more times, but we live in a world that's so goddamn noisy. There's just chatter, there's noise all the time. Like, that's the tone, right? The tone that just takes up this world is this noise. And again, that lives outside of self. Our TVs, how many of you currently live in a house or have lived in a house where it's just like the TV always has to be on? Or your phones, are you one of those people that have like all the notifications, so your notifications are just always going off? I think about my days living in Phoenix and just like the noise always going on in my apartment, outside on the freeway. I think about being in the office and it's just always so noisy. So there's this external noise in our world, and that has a relationship to the internal noise, right? The noise that lives within self. Can our heads really being responsible for a lot of this? Our heads are not the only place that are noisy within, I can promise you this. But how much of your consciousness, how much of the space that you exist in within is just taken over by mental chatter? Does it ever stop? So this stillness piece, this cultivation of inner stillness, how can we create space within that is far less noisy? How can we create space within that's filled with more clarity? More clarity. I say these words and I get these like icy, crystal clear lake waters that, I don't know if you've ever been in one of these situations, but you're like up in the mountains or out in the forest and you come across waters, just these still waters, and you can look down on these waters and just see a perfect reflection looking back at you, and you can look beyond that reflection and down through the waters and just see right to the bottom of those waters below, and there's this piercing clarity. Like, yes, this lake, it is full. In this case, it is full of water, but it's still. And in that stillness brings a clarity. And it's the same idea with your mind, right? Your mind being a vessel, just like a lake is a vessel, just like that lake can be filled with these clearest of waters, your mind, your mental space can be filled with the clearest of consciousness. And when you are fully conscious, your mind is clear, then what is here as an experience that can unfold? Once you find yourself in a state where your mind is full, not of noise, not of thoughts, but full of consciousness, this crystal clear consciousness. Once your mind as a vessel is so full of this form of consciousness, now what becomes possible? Well, what is possible now? What is possible now? Well, this is when we get to get skillful. Because when our minds are clear, full of consciousness, now we get to choose. What are we going to call in? What is present, most present that we are facing in life that wants attention, that needs focus, that needs intellect, or maybe that needs to be connected to heart's desire, soul fulfillment. So this right here for me is what really gets to the heart, the reason why I teach inner stillness, why I help guide you to it, why I'm devoting all of winter to help you cultivate this space, is because yes, it's lovely. It's lovely to sit in a meditation practice that is stillness focused. It is lovely to be in a practice of emptying out all that noise and calling in quiet, calling in peace. It's a lovely state to live in. And there's also the fact that, as we spend time in this sort of practice, then we become, attuned to it. So then as we're walking through life, there's this inner quiet, inner clarity that becomes more present in our lives, right? So that right there is two reasons to call in a stillness practice. One, for the peace and the joy of it in the moment. Two, for how it will then show up more and more in your life, even when you're not in a focused meditation practice. And three, because once you call upon this stillness within, once you have the skill to call in clarity, to empty your mind of all the noise, then from this space, you have the power to be more intentional about everything you call in life. At this point, it's like you've detached yourself from that wheel that is just all the programmed stuff of life that's affecting you unconsciously, right? Just pushing you, spinning you from one moment to the next. Well, it's this sort of practice that allows you to detach from that, to disengage, to get grounded, to get focused, to become intentional so that you can then take charge of your life. What is it that you actually want to call in? What is it that you actually want to focus on? What is here in this clear, crystal vessel that is your mind, your consciousness? What is it that is best to fill it with? What is it that is most skillful to fill it with? Which is a topic that we could spend so much time talking about. And if you know me, you know that we spend a lot of time talking about that. And actually, if you want to move into that sort of space, the previous episode that I put out there, this Sagittarius episode, I also put it out there with a whole Substack post, a whole blog post on this energy that is, okay, now that you have a clear vessel, what are you going to fill it with? Where are you going to go from here? This very Sagittarian energy, that's already up for you. I'll link those below. Also, probably 90% of what I put out there has to do with this. So that's there for you. How you fill this clear vessel that you have created for yourself, how you let yourself be guided in life, how you guide yourself through life, all the good things that we can do to help fill ourselves, fill our lives with the good stuff and not the junk, the noise, the chaos that so readily wants to fill us from out there. Okay. So I've been spending a lot of time, these past 30 minutes talking, throwing a lot of words your way, courtesy of this Gemini full moon, this Gemini Sagittarius axis. So lit up, so high energy right now, so mentally chattery. And I'm really feeling into this sort of dichotomy, sort of polarity, right? We're in the space where we're talking about inner stillness and the power of it. And we're talking about noise in the world and feeling into this for me for a minute here, right? And when I say feel into this, what I mean is take a moment to get grounded, get centered, just be present to everything that's here right now, right? Again, these past 30 minutes, a lot of words coming your way. taking a moment here to settle into it, to be present to what's here. And what this doesn't mean, right, is sitting there and thinking, trying to make sense of it all. So there's this way we can be present to something where we're really calling upon our minds and trying to piece it all together and make sense of it. But this is one of those episodes where I've thrown a whole bunch at you, and doing so for a reason, because I don't want to teach you how to be the smartest person you can be from a head intellectual space. Like, yes, absolutely, that's valuable. A nod to my science and engineering degrees. Those were so valuable. I learned so much. Go find the places in the world for you to really bring your head on board, get intellectual, be smart in this traditional way. But that's not what we're doing here. What we're doing here is learning to call on a different sort of wisdom, a fully embodied wisdom. And yes, that means letting your mind be present. And yes, that means letting your heart be present. Yes, that means letting your spirit, your soul, all aspects of you be present. And knowing that this is just an allowing, like you don't have to sit here and have it figured out how to do this. Like you know how to do this. This is your natural state. To do this, what it is letting go of this attachment to having to have it all figured out from your headspace, letting go of that, just being present to what's here. I've thrown all these words at you today, and along the ride, I've also illuminated a lot of energy for you. There's a lot going on right now. And can you right now be in a practice of letting go of this overriding mind and being present to all of it? Maybe you call upon your breath to really help ground you in. This practice I teach regularly, these deep breaths down into your body, feeling into the expansion of your ribs, feeling into the expansion of your abdomen as you are filled with breath. Slow, deep grounding breaths, letting your exhale. I like to call upon the power of the exhale to just let go of any noise. Maybe that's thoughts, maybe that's other forms of noise within, any energies that are taking up space here that aren't serving. So some deep breaths here. Breathing in as you ground in a little bit deeper. Exhaling this intention to let go of anything that's taking up space in your vessel that doesn't serve. And if you want to really go for it, I invite you to take a moment here to pause and spend the next minute, maybe 5 minutes, really deepening into this practice and simply calling upon the power of your breath. Can you ground in? Can you deepen in? Can you create space? Can you create that vessel full of those crystal clear consciousness that we spoke to earlier? The noise of the world, the noise of within having fallen away. This crystal clear, grounded vessel. What is here? So all of us listening now, whether you just took 3 breaths or 5 minutes worth of breaths, sitting with me in this space now and just asking self, what is lit up for you? There's a lot here right now, and this episode, speaking to stillness, speaking to meditation, speaking to this time of year of going within. We have this Gemini Full Moon. We have Sagittarius, and there's all this stuff, all this noise, all this noise, all this noise. But what is it in this moment that's speaking to you? Can you become present to what is speaking to you? What is lighting up within you? What is drawing your attention from this grounded, centered space? What is drawing your attention? Again, an invitation to press pause, hang out here for a little bit longer if that serves and that allows in your life. But from here, what I'm going to do is bring a few more words. Bring them through with more gentleness. I'm not going to throw a whole lot more information at you, but spend a moment in reflection here. When it comes to this greater embodiment path that we're on, I'm using different words these days. It's this path, it's this embodied spirituality, it's your life's journey. Whatever words serve you, but really what it comes down to is being present with self, being in tune with self, as we are also present to the worlds, to the families, to the communities, to the ecosystems that we are all part of. What we're all really doing here is walking this path, and with each step, we're just doing the best we can to figure out where is it that's the next best direction for us to go. And what's happening right now in our world, I believe, is that we've gotten so lost along the way. Right? We've lost track of how to listen within, how to discern, how to know truth from bullshit. We've gotten caught up in the noise, right? We've become cogs on a wheel or just part of the great machine. And in doing so, we've found ourselves on these wild paths that are directed by people who just don't have your interest at heart. They don't have the interest of our ecosystems, of the health of this planet at heart. And it's just created this great old mess, right? And, I speak to this great mess of things alive on planet Earth right now. And as I speak those words, you can let whatever ping you, show up in your consciousness. But there's this question that's always alive within me that's, directed at self, but also directed at the way I teach, where I'm guiding others. This, how do we heal, make amends with, remedy this great mess of things here on planet Earth? How do we take action? How do we go through the transformation that is needed to set this planet on a better trajectory? One that is more aligned, one that is more wholesome. It's a healing path. It's a path of joyful transformation. It's a path of fulfillment. And as we walk this path, what I know for sure is that each of us have got to have a practice that is a grounding stillness practice, that is detaching from all the ways we are caught up in all the spinning and all the noise of the world. Each of us, however that looks, and maybe it looks like a traditional sort of practice. I've had that serve me greatly in my life. A sort of meditation practice where you're really focused on becoming physically still, where you're looking to slow your thoughts, calm your thoughts, let your thoughts fade away. It's very structured, traditional meditation. I've also been in this place where this didn't serve. Forcing myself into quiet stillness was actually aggravating for me, and I had to find stillness elsewhere, which for me was out hiking and trail running. That being a story for another time. The point being here, I believe it's essential for everybody to be cultivating inner stillness, finding the practices, finding the paths that resonate for you to do this, and knowing that that may not be any sort of traditional practice, knowing that you may need to get creative with it, knowing that you may need to seek out professional help from the right person who is actually able to see you for who you are and what you're up against. So if it seems true to you to join this winter stillness event, know that that's on offer. If you think you might want one-on-one help, know that I also have that option open, working directly with you one-on-one, so we can get creative and focused on what serves you. Oh, and I could start listing off other parts of the path, but there's a lot of them. And I want to keep us focused here. I want to keep us centered here in this space as I leave off today. I think I have at least one more stillness-focused episode coming this month. Not going to promise you that. The holidays are a wild time. Finding time to do stuff like this gets trickier and trickier as we get towards Christmas. But I do want to bring you one more episode that focuses us more directly on stillness. I know today I really wove together stillness and this full moon because that was speaking loudly to me today. So look forward to that. Look forward to all the other offerings I have on Substack, the Mountain Mystic blog, YouTube, Instagram, the newsletter, all the places. Make sure you're connecting with me in all the different places you show up. Alrighty, guys. I'm going to close things down here for today. I thank you so much for joining me. Know that that comes right from the center of my heart. I thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you're here with me all the way through the end and something is speaking to you, I invite you to share this podcast, share with a friend, a family member, your Facebook or social media community. Help me get this out if this is speaking to you in a way that is truly serving. I invite you to help me get it out there. All right. Have the best day moving forward, and I look forward to connecting with you in whatever the next spaces that we find ourselves in.